What up, y'all? I had a chance to film a little earlier. I'm looking out the window at a quiet storm, literally, so you might hear some thunder. Hope everybody's doing well. So, yeah, we're here with our weekend reflection message, and it is really summing up our lessons that we've been reckoning with through the week. So from the Radiant Sun Oracle, we have the moon in Aries. We have Mercury in Sagittarius, which is discovery. So we have protection, discovery. And we have Mercury in Pisces, which is inspiration. Underneath protection, we have Two of Cups. Underneath discovery, we have the Hermit. And underneath inspiration, we have Eight of Pentacles. All right, so there's like a lot of layers of meaning in this reading. So I'm just going to start with, maybe I'll just go each card by card and talk about it as it comes as usual. Who are we kidding? All right, so protective. This card is highlighting maybe a feeling that's been coming up this week, and it might be like a reflexive feeling of like protectiveness or defensiveness. Maybe you feel in some instances that you've been protecting and defensive, out of protection for yourself. Maybe we feel protective towards others. And I think that is extending not only into our personal, intimate relationships, but also, towards other people that are outside of our group, people in our communities, people in the extended communities around us and around the world. There's so many people who are suffering right now. So for starters, I'm going to go on the personal level. You might have like somebody in your life that you have, like the people in your life this week. For instance, I was doing my short. I made a short on this today. We may have been like provoked and triggered through the week by both other people's negative experiences and positive experiences. Maybe our past conditioning and childhood conditioning were working in tandem to tickle our defense mechanisms and put up our what we would think are our spidey senses, but or actually maybe our subconscious defense mechanisms and limiting beliefs that were making us skeptical or wary or protective or on guard or vigilant in some way. And so the challenge, one of the challenges of this week has been to restrict our desire for a reflexive response, to say something or to act, or even because the thing is that once we say something, that can be unsaid. And so, but we do want to observe what we were going to say, because what that does is it highlights that unconscious pattern of self-sabotage or like a negative destructive pattern coming up. And we can see how that unhealed ego was going to kind of get the playbook out of our unconscious defense mechanisms and limiting beliefs and start playing that out into a pattern, right? But instead, we were able to pause, observe the almost saying something by letting ourselves feel our feelings throughout this week, right? So they're showing us things. And we're able to slow down enough to pause and stop ourselves from saying something, to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, and then to pause, give it some space, and then reflect a little bit, so that we don't do something impulsively and hurtful and become damaging, right? Because there are new experiences with relationships that are available to us right now. as a result of the work that we've been putting in to our growth, our healing, our transformation, our change. So things are different this time. But they're becoming as we are breaking the old pattern, as we are severing the old pattern. So things could be different than we're used to. So whereas we're being vigilant and maybe thinking about things in terms of how they played out in the past, and maybe we're trying to guard from that same thing playing out again, this is a different situation, and our life is opening up to a new level of opportunities, both in love, money, career, goals, life, like gifts and talents and purposes and things like that. But it's coming on the other side of our shift in consciousness and going deep. Now, before I move into the next card, I do want to say that on a global level, I think that we are looking at the world right now, just looking at these 3 cards. So this is this feeling of wanting to protect and defend. And we're looking at people's, this is Mercury in Sagittarius. So this is thinking about things, the bigger picture, like looking at things on a worldwide, perspective. All the suffering that's happening in the world. And like this card here, Mercury in Pisces, it talks about having a gift for being empathic and understanding towards others. And so it's like we need to allow this empathy for others to allow us to acknowledge and speak out and feel that protectiveness, and let that protectiveness prompt us to fight for justice and human dignity in the world, and speak out against atrocities and barbarous crimes against humanity, and violations of human dignity and human rights. And so, both in the genocide in Gaza, in the inhumane deportation of immigrants right now, and so many other issues that are arising, the harassment and phobia, spreading of trans people, you name it, every, marginalized group on earth is under the attack of every dark overlord that has suddenly risen, right? So it's up to us to allow that holy, righteous anger to come forward and show us what is wrong. And we need to speak out about what is wrong and defend those who, can do nothing for themselves, and put our tithe money towards helping those, who need aid right now. We can be constructive rather than destructive, instead of trying to fight against a system by bringing down these companies. We can unite together with that same amount of energy and purpose and intention, and put our constructive dollars and energy into aiding the people who need it the most, to fight those powers that be from like a really constructive angle of helping the victims of these evils, and helping them fight for their own freedom and justice and survival, right? There's also another layer here, talking about gaining a new level of security through something about our gift of understanding, like being able to put our ear to the heartbeat of the collective, and understand the zeitgeist and what is appealing to people, where people's sensibilities are at, and being able to navigate through and around those and create things that will be appealing for people. This card also talks about like a creative, talented, intuitive individual who understands what will be well received with people. So you understand how people feel and what's needed, and then you know what to make or to create to deliver to them that is going to be well received. Like, and it's something intuitive that's coming through, that you have a feeling and you have an intuitive sense of that. But this card is also about having like a deeper understanding of one's self and one's philosophy, and also like fleshing out ideas, expanding ideas, travel, even exploration. So moving on to going deeper into ideas and expanding and fleshing those ideas out, and understanding one's own nature and personal philosophy on a deeper level. We have the Hermit, which is the work of going inward. And many times it takes seasons of isolation, of going deep and inward and introspecting on one's self and one's character, and going through that dark night of the soul, going through self-discovery and healing, and going through maybe seasons of like devouring sacred wisdoms, and gaining your own wisdom through experience. But then on the other side of that, it's like it allows you to be able to hold the light up for others as well, and bring them on down territory that you've already passed through. So using our experiences and what we've gained in our experience and knowledge of life to help others, and to help us navigate our relationships with others better, so that we can have a chance at having more successful like relationships. And the more we heal our ability to have those relationships with ourselves and with others, it's like that is also tying into our ability to be fruitful in our efforts towards our career goal. And like the more we're consistent with our efforts towards our career goal, or like for instance, it might be a certain manifestation or a dream or something we're working on within ourselves. When we show up for those desires that we have in our own life consistently, things that are important to ourselves, that shows the universe that we care about ourselves, that we are consistent and dependable, and that we value ourselves and respect and value what we care about. And so that puts out that signal to draw in an equal partner who also respects and values us and takes us seriously, because we're taking ourselves seriously enough to be consistent. And so they'll be consistent. They will be committed and devoted, right? So it spills out into all areas. And then, and this comes on the other side, like, because we have the Two of Cups, the Hermit, and Eight of Pentacles. So this is like new love, new relationships, new friendships, even kindred spirits, but a new flush of love, where two individuals are getting closer. And I think this is a result on the other side of having done the growth, having done the healing. You're capable now of meeting an equally yoked kindred and being able to come together in a new chapter of love without the patterns sabotaging you. Because now we are more aware, because we have done the work. And so now the Eight of Pentacles in regards to romance is like a long lasting relationship where there's a lot of growth potential there and a lot of potential to learn and become. The Eight of Pentacles is like a long-term project that one devotes themselves to. It's going to involve a lot of learning. This is the card of like the apprentice, or like the student, or someone who's like starting a business, right? So it's like a long-term project that requires consistent effort and labor over a long period of time, but it teaches you a lot and you learn to master your skills. Or it's the effort of self-mastery, or mastering an art or something like that nature, but it's consistent effort over a long time because you're devoted and committed. And as a result, you gain mastery at that thing. And it brings you value in return. And then 2, here we have the Eight of Pentacles with the inspiration card. This whole reading throughout different, a couple of the different Radiant Sun Oracle cards, it talked about being careful not to allow your empathy and your emotions to get you sucked into someone else's agenda either, or to avoid like people pleasing in order to maintain the status quo, or like, so for instance, because you're so keenly aware of how people feel and what they where their opinions lean and their feelings about things and their stance on things. We don't want to become people pleasers or like political brown nosers who go along with the crowd to appease them in order to get their approval or to have some sort of advantage or manipulation to control a situation either. So we need to resist the urge. And even sometimes, like for instance, Cancers and Libras, they are so empathic and they care so much about everybody else's needs that many times they abandon themselves in order to make everyone else comfortable. And so that is something that we have to transcend beyond and learn to maintain our own identity and our own voice and our own mind, because those are important because they're unique to us. Everyone has their own unique angle and perspective to add to the picture. And also learning to, as an empath, how to manage that gift without it becoming a curse. Because so many times when you're in like a group setting, or even like right now where the world is all, we're all watching the same things, play out, and you can absorb like everyone's anxiety and everyone's grief and everyone's terror and not realize where yours begins and theirs ends. And it's just like you're feeling it all and you're taking it all on. You can be in a group setting where you're feeling everybody else's anxiety and you're not realizing that it's not your own, or feeling other people's sadness. So it's learning how to identify when you are feeling other people's emotions from when you are feeling your own emotions, and how to put a healthy barrier around yourself so that you can maintain your own individually distinguished self and personality and soul, and not to get enmeshed with another person, while still being able to hold space and understand and feel with them. They won't influence your sovereignty over your consciousness or your effectiveness, as far as being drawn into mob thinking, right? And group think and fear mentality, right? And in these times when the powers that be and the most powerful people in the world are trying to intimidate the masses, and steer them and brainwash them into going along with horrendous agendas, we have to maintain our own thoughts and feelings, because they do all these things and they pull all these strings to try to provoke us into like animalistic survival trauma responses that are predictable, so they can use psychology against us to try to put us into like survival mode and make us more malleable, or more compliant or whatever, because we're in a panic or what have you. So just maintaining your own sense of cosmic sovereignty over your mental state, over your consciousness, over your emotions, and not to make any choices or take actions when you're in an emotional state, but just to let yourself calm down before you go further. All right, you all, I think that is all for tonight. I hope you have a peaceful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. And I will see y'all tomorrow night for our Secret Teachings of Jesus. Sorry, I've got hiccups all of a sudden. Secret Teachings of Jesus episode. Or we will dive into the Gnostic Gospels. So stay tuned for that. I usually come in from work and do those episodes around midnight, and then they post as soon as they upload. So if you're a night owl, take a look, keep a lookout. And if not, you'll hopefully have something for Sunday morning that will be nourishing. All right. Peace.